All right. Welcome to Caffeinated with Charlie William Parks, where I am going to give you the latest on everything that enriches your life. We're going to go the full gauntlet here, from health and wellness to creativity and the arts. This is going to be a one-stop where you can get your daily dose of all of it in one place. This is for the creative who is interested in their well-being and their personal growth, whether you're on your way to work, or you're at home with kids, or you're at home by yourself listening to this, whatever it is. This is designed to enrich your life and help make your life better right now, instantly. This is going to give you the jolt you need. This is your pre-workout for the soul. No excuses here. Your time is valuable, and my mission is to make sure every minute of this show is just as valuable for you because your time is precious. And if you're listening and you're watching, you're probably noticing this is episode number 1. And the reason that this podcast came to be is I have a lot of interests in my life and things that I feel would make my life more valuable. I don't, however, have the time to listen to 15 podcasts. And I looked and I searched and I said, is there a one-stop that's going to offer me the enrichment and the value that I want out of a podcast? I couldn't find it. So I decided I was going to make it for you. Instead of taking the time to listen to a myriad of things having to do with health and wellness and culture and things that enrich my life and help me self-actualize, help me be a better me, I'm going to take that time and create it. I'll do the deep dives, I'll do the research, I'll learn, and I'm going to bring it to you and share it with you every single week. It is so important to me that you also let me know what you think, what else I can talk about, and how you feel about it. So comment on it, like, bell, whatever buttons they allow you to do if you can on that platform. Also, you can email me at charliewilliamparks@gmail.com. I want to hear from you. What do you like? What don't you like? How can I make the show better? What do you want to hear about? What's your struggle? That's what I'm here for. My mission is to give you as much immediately applicable value as possible. You listen, you hear, you digest it, you use it, and you're off. So on today's episode in health and wellness, we're going to talk about taurine, which is a supplement, a super supplement. We're going to talk about fat loss, how to lose fat. It's a little more personal to me. We're going to talk about the biggest fat loss mistakes that I see. We're going to talk about the exact way I recommend you go about losing fat if you'd like to. In culture and the arts, we're going to talk about The Apples Don't Fall. This is a show streaming on Peacock. You may like it. You may want to check it out. In music, we're going to talk about Pearl Jam just put out a new album, Dark Matter. In the world of comic books and animation, we're going to talk about XMEN 97, which is a deep dive on the X-Men, where this animated show kicks off, and why it may be different than other cartoons you've looked at in the past, why it may be a little bit more. In the end, we're going to bring it back to health and wellness. I'm going to give you my recipe for high protein Reese's Mudpies. They're fantastic. You're going to want to stick around for that too. Let me know if you try it. All right, and we're off. Alert, subscribe, hit the bells. You'll know when the next episode comes out. You cannot have a caffeinated podcast without having some caffeine. So today, we're going to be having Atomic Coffee Roasters, Ethiopian Gore Dako. I'm sure that's exactly the way they want me to pronounce it. They're not a sponsor. They make really good coffee. I like dark roast coffee usually. This is a bit lighter. It's a limited release. It's really delicious. That is what I'm drinking today as I speak with you. It's really good. It's full-bodied. You got elements of plum, black tea, grapefruit essence. Coffee is going to be a big part of getting caffeinated, so check it out. You might like atomiccoffee.com or atomiccoffeeroasters.com. So taurine. Disclaimer first. I am not your doctor. Be your own best advocate. Like anything you do or anything you take, don't just listen to some bozo like me or any bozo out there. Do your own research. You're going to hear my thoughts on taurine, but you got to do you. You got to think for you. That's a big part of this. And if you have experiences with taurine, you let me know that too. So what is taurine? Taurine's an amino acid that's produced by your body, okay? It's one of the most abundant amino acids found in the body. It's found in like your brain and your retina, your organs. What's really interesting about taurine is not solely responsible for being a building block of protein, which means it's not just there to help you build muscles either. This is interesting because it serves other functions. This means it's what's called a conditionally essential amino acid. That kind of In layman's terms, that means when you are real stressed, when you are not feeling so good, and I would imagine if you're doing a really intense workout, or you're like running a triathlon, you're, like me right now with two kids doing the juggling, you might need more taurine in your diet. Taurine is going to make sure your cells are functioning properly. Can I eat more taurine? You can eat taurine. It's found in shellfish like mussels, scallops. It's found in clams. It's found in tuna, the darker meat poultry, the chicken and turkey, beef. It's found in it. However, to get enough that will be notable and to make a difference in your diet, I don't know that you necessarily want to eat all that meat for multiple reasons. One, you might not want all that meat in your diet. You might be a vegan or vegetarian. You might just not want to eat, 3 pounds of meat a day. Meat's also expensive. Protein is the most expensive macro you can get. So if you don't need to eat all of it and you're not starving yourself, if you want to go for it, I don't know you need to eat all that taurine. Something funny you may have heard about taurine in the past, you may be worried about, you don't have to worry about, is taurine was originally extracted from bulls' testicles. That's how they got it and all that good stuff. It is no longer extracted from bulls' testicles. But if you have heard in the past of Red Bull with taurine, that is the reason for this. For my hopefully future faithful listener and avid bull testicle avoider, you're safe, at least in this department. I want to preface anything about taurine with we need more studies. The scientific evidence is mixed, some real good stuff, some like, what's it doing? I think for that reason, anecdotal evidence is really important. You may be someone who's deficient in taurine. You may see these great results we see in studies. You may be eating loads of meat or have a lot of taurine in your body. You might not see the same results. I'm going to give you my anecdotal evidence as well. I'm going to give you the science behind it too. It's going to be kind of a mix of what data says and what is my experience. First off, taurine has been shown to increase aerobic performance by delaying time to exhaustion. Kind of just how it sounds. You can go longer with taurine in your body. If you're like a real avid runner or a sprinter, that's a real great thing. It's also shown to improve anaerobic performance, is what you think of when you have, you want to build your biceps and your muscles and things like that. Taurine does that by helping you with strength and power. So this kind of goes back to what we were saying before. Taurine is not an essential amino acid responsible for building protein, hence building muscles. But if it's delaying exhaustion and it's helping my strength and power, that's going to allow me to probably get stronger faster and do all those good things. So for that reason, taurine may absolutely help you put on muscle based on the studies we're looking at. The other real neat thing it's going to do in regards to muscle is it's helping people with recovery. The way it does this is it reduces DOMS. Okay. DOMS is delayed onset muscle soreness. Don't overthink it. The less sore you are, the sooner again you can train the muscle. The more you break down the muscle's going to grow more. If I'm training my biceps or my shoulders or whatever muscle I want to grow, if you're a woman, you want to grow your glutes. If you're training that muscle 2 times a week, because you've alleviated the soreness, you're ready to train again, it's going to grow faster than if you only train it once a week. So another cool thing about taurine. There's been some studies with taurine regarding anxiety. Myself, I have struggled with anxiety my whole life. I have struggled with general anxiety disorder, panic attacks, overall specific anxiety, PTSD, not fun things when it comes to anxiety. The studies on mice are not conclusive in any way. Like many studies on mice, they can get you excited. I don't even know how you measure anxiety in a mouse. Maybe like the mouse isn't as worried that the other mice are going to eat his cheese. I'm stretching here, but I do not feel a reduction in anxiety when I take taurine, which I do take. I do feel taurine is relaxing. So in that sense, it has almost a cardiovascularly relaxing function, much like magnesium, which we'll talk about in the future. You can do a whole episode on magnesium. So for that reason, it could help you relax. Do I think you should not talk to a doctor or not be prescribed if that's something that you feel is appropriate? Absolutely not. Like anything, you talk to your doctor. Sleep. Can taurine help with sleep? I believe it may be able to help you with sleep if it's helping you relax, if it's helping your cardiovascular system relax. That's a possibility right there with taurine. You'll see that for yourself. Taurine's also been shown in some people to lower blood pressure. I wouldn't recommend taking a supplement on its own to lower blood pressure. There are other things you can do too regarding stress, even not drinking too much of this coffee. There are things in life that can be attributed to high blood pressure. Some people it is genetic, but taurine could be something that potentially helps you if that's something you're struggling with. Taurine also, they love to do studies on testosterone because it's popular with men and even women today with their lifting. And women do have testosterone in their bodies, so it makes sense. Not the amounts men have necessarily. Maybe if you're an IFBB pro female bodybuilder, but I don't necessarily think taurine is going to give you a very large testosterone boost, if you will. Is it possible? I guess it's possible, but I also feel like it's such an easy way for someone to sell you something when they start talking about it's a testosterone booster. There are other ways to boost your testosterone. I don't know that taurine is the best way to boost your testosterone. Does taurine provide anti-aging benefits? This is the interesting one because I saw a few articles kind of referring like could the clickbait, my favorite clickbait, right? Could, as soon as you add could, it's like, well, that doesn't really mean anything. Could taurine be the fountain of youth? Well, studies on mice, I think Columbia did one in the Journal of Science, show it has anti-aging benefits in that it seems to delay the aging process and it's becoming attributed to a healthy lifespan in these mice. Is it possible? This is promising. This is great to hear. There are studies. This is usually where studies on things start. They start with mice, then they eventually end up with us. It's promising. Is it the fountain of youth? Is it something that's going to be, the difference between people's lifespans going another 10, 20, 30 years? I don't know. I don't think it can hurt. I think the research so far is promising, which is nice. Cool thing about taurine too is it's cheap. I think for like $10, $20, you can get an effective dose for a month or whatever. The way I dose taurine is I take 2 grams 20 to 30 minutes before I train. And I take the 500 milligram capsules is one of the ways it comes. I take 4 of those. There's a reason I take the 500 milligram ones and not the 1,000 milligram ones or 1 gram, 1,000 milligrams, 1 gram. I also take 500 milligrams before I go to sleep at night for the relaxation of the cardiovascular system for that benefit. Why do I recommend you buy, and I'm going to get a link in the description for the one I use. Why do I recommend you buy the 500 milligram ones? It is easier to titrate it, which basically means you start at a lower dose and you take a little more and you see if it has a good effect. If it has a good effect, so if I go from 500 to 1 gram and I feel good, now I might go to 1.5 grams or 2 grams. If I feel even better, great. You could even try taking a little more. The studies show, most studies use between, I want to say 1 gram and 6 grams. So you're in a safe range. If you find you're taking 2 grams like I am right now, and you're getting a benefit, and you go to 3 grams and there's no real benefit, you go back to 2 and that's where you're at. That's how you titrate a supplement. Easier to do with a lower dose. And once you know what your dose is, if you want to buy 1 gram capsules, you can do that. The other thing with taurine that is really great, especially with a promising supplement like this, is that there are no side effects really found with taurine. Even with caffeine, the recommended kind of maximum dose is about 400 milligrams of caffeine a day. That's like 3 or 4 cups of coffee. Some people can tolerate more, some people can't. But there's no real, you're not hearing this with taurine, which is nice. So what is my anecdotal evidence with taurine? How do I feel taking it? So on and so forth. What's it doing for me or not doing for me? Performance-wise, I feel like I am able to go longer in the gym at a higher intensity. I see what the research says and I feel that. I feel like when I'm taking the taurine, I'm training harder for longer. When I'm not, I noticed a difference. 20 to 30 minutes before exercise seems to be good. Am I stronger on my sets? Am I lifting a heavier weight? I am not. I'm lifting the weights that are heavy for me right now for longer. It's delaying my time to exhaustion, much like we spoke about earlier. I feel that. I can see a difference there. In terms of sleep, is it helping me with my sleep? Well, my baby at the time I record this is like 5 weeks old. So sleep is limited to begin with. I don't know if it's helping yet. And I don't believe it can hurt, so I'm trying it. That's my experiences with taurine. If you want to give this a try, by all means, the brand I use is Thorn. They are not a sponsor of this channel, but they make really high quality tested supplements. You don't want cross contamination, other crap in your supplements. I mean, it's worse if you're an Olympic athlete, and I guess now you can't pole vault because they found steroids in your taurine. But I recommend Thorn highly. I will leave you a link in the show notes in the description. And you know what? It supports the channel too. So if you like that kind of thing, appreciate that. If you don't want to, that's cool too. But we'll get the link in there. Is there another supplement that you guys want me to talk about on this channel? Let me know. I'll do a deep dive. I'll bring it back to you. Next week, we're talking creatine. That's going to be a good one for men and women. Now we're going to talk a little bit about fat loss. This is a really, I mean, everywhere you look, there's marketing, there's talk about, there's people struggling with fat loss. I think this may offer you some insight as to why you aren't losing the weight you might want to lose, and maybe a couple of things are going to click for you in terms of what you can do differently without suffering, without starving yourself. That is not good. That's not health. That's not wellness. That's not what the show is about. My experience with fat loss. So I grew up. I was the heavy kid. I was the fat kid. I was overweight. I was bullied. I dealt with a lot of crap when it came to fat loss, like a lot of people do. That's one of the reasons why I really like seeing today body positivity in general. Not because I think that people shouldn't try to better their health, and if you are overweight, lose the weight. I do think that's my personal belief. I think health is different than body positivity. I do think, though, you need to start at a place of loving yourself and come from a place first of compassion and being gentle with yourself and loving yourself. And it's going to make it a lot easier for you to lose the weight, because if you screw up, and you will screw up, forgive yourself. You forgive yourself and move on. Then you go forward and you figure out how you're going to conquer this thing. And I'm going to try and help you do that. So I was the fat kid growing up, certainly overweight. And then when I was 12 or 13 years old, maybe a little younger, I started going to the gym with my dad. And this was really, really cool because my dad was easily in the best shape out of all the dads. My dad's still in fantastic shape, which is really frustrating if you're the fat kid growing up. And I started training with him because I wanted to be like him, and it opened up a new world to me. I started seeing results very quickly training in the gym. Genetically, I had some predisposition, I guess. I remember one guy in the gym, Frank, he'd say, he called me man child. Man child, which was actually nice to hear when you're 12 years old. So I'm lifting weights and all that stuff. And it also was an outlet for the things in my life. Kind of when you're 12, 13, you're a young teenager and you feel weird, you don't belong, you don't know what's going on. And it did great things for me too, because now I had a way to physically better myself. I also, at the same time, my uncle Marshall, was really involved in supplement companies, and he worked for Twin Lab, which I always found fascinating. I love talking to him about all the supplements and the things going on. He was at the Mr. Olympias and all that stuff, which I always thought was so cool. And I remember my Uncle Marshall giving me these two like limited edition Arnold Schwarzenegger posters that still have, and my mom got them framed and matted for me, and they were on the wall, and it was like inspiration. One was him doing an easy bar curl, a bicep curl, and it's you just look at it, you hear he's like, "Nah, I need to push out the last time, I need to go do my," like you get to see it in him. And the other was like a side double bicep thing, which was really cool. I've been a huge admirer of Arnold's life. I don't believe in or condone or support all the things he's done. He's obviously not a perfect person. So I'm lifting weights about 15, 16 years old. I decide I am going to become a professional wrestler, which in essence was a terrible idea. It was a really bad idea. To fast forward without too many details, I end up having a really bad experience in a wrestling ring with ephedrine, which was legal at the time. And If you remember hydroxycut or Xenadrim, they'd be like, take 16 pills a day and all this. And I did. And I had too much. I had a bad experience. I collapsed. I don't even remember everything that happened, but I know I was hooked up to EKGs after. I was okay. That being said, it traumatized me. I was out of the wrestling business. I couldn't even watch wrestling for a pretty long time. I do now. I enjoy it. I like watching the old stuff. And for someone who was already dealing with anxiety and panic attacks and that not fun stuff, this made it a lot worse. So, I got out of that and I was into weightlifting. I kept lifting and I yo-yo dieted for a while. And sometimes it'd be heavier, sometimes it'd be leaner, but I never quite got to that place that I wanted to be at, that I felt the best at, I felt I looked the best at, until the last maybe 5 years, 6 years. And the way I did this was I had tried all these other diets. I don't even like the word diet. I feel like a diet is everything you eat, versus something you go on for a period of time to lose weight. So, but I did try paleo and primal and keto and low carb. Remember the Atkins diet. Remember those Atkins bars? I'd eat those things all the time. They actually were good. Intermittent fasting, right? If you eat more than 4 hours a day, you're gonna die or whatever. I ate all of these ways, and it didn't work for me. And it might work for you. The best diet is the diet that works for you. But I landed on flex dieting. And flex dieting is basically because you're using the laws of thermodynamics. You are using calories in, calories out. If I eat more than I burn, I'm going to gain weight. If I eat less than I burn, I'm going to lose weight. If I'm eating about what I burn, I'm not going to lose or gain weight too much. I might a little bit because water fluctuations, be them carbohydrates or glycogen or just the sheer volume of food. But when you use this principle and you understand your triggers and that it's a mental exercise. It is a mental exercise to lose fat, to lose weight. It should not be an endurance exercise. You should not feel like you are going to die because you're starving yourself. That is not health. That's not wellness. That is a problem, right? And we hopefully you don't have that problem. And if you do, hopefully we can help fix it. Um, so the reason you don't hear about the calories in, calories out diet is because it's not very sexy. It's not very, well, if you just avoid pasta, the weight's gonna fall off. It's not, if you eat the way that people ate 40,000 years ago, everything's gonna go the way you want. There's numerous reasons for this, and I wanna talk about them first because I want you to be able to identify why it hasn't worked for you in the past. That's just as important as what you're gonna do in the future to actually lose the weight. Stay with me here. So, the biggest problem people have that I see why they're not losing fat is that you don't want to lose just weight. You don't want to lose your muscle. You don't want to lose your bones. You want to lose fat. When people say they want to lose weight, they want to lose fat. I would imagine the majority of the time. I'm an actor. I'm sure there's some actors that, when they're like a Christian Bale, the machinist, he wanted to lose everything, right? He got down to a bone. If you hadn't seen it, it was scary. But you want to lose fat. So the first problem we have to deal with here is carbohydrates. People have a gross misunderstanding of how carbohydrates work. Carbohydrates are not just your body's preferred source of fuel, which people will argue and disagree and all that stuff with me on. If you were on a low carbohydrate diet, your body will hold less water, much of that in your muscle, the way your muscle stores carbohydrates called glycogen, and you will lose weight from cutting carbohydrate. You will lose water. You will not lose fat from solely cutting carbohydrate. The problem is you just decided that your best results are with a low carb diet. So you cut out your carbs. You're going keto. You're going primal. You are on the Atkins diet. You feel great about it because you cut carbs and then in the first 3 days you lost 10 pounds. You didn't lose 10 pounds of fat. You lost water. What happens on weeks like 2, 3, and 4, and 5? You can't continually lose water, you will die. So it's like, it was working so good for me for 2, 3 weeks. The scale was dropping, then it stopped because you weren't losing any fat, because you didn't have any idea how many calories you're actually consuming. and you lost water weight. And it's like, gotcha. Got that book on the shelf there. Like the blah 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 diet. Well, it's bullshit. Look at wrestlers, meaning like not what I tried to do, stupid, but uh, like collegiate wrestlers or boxers that are trying to get ready for a match. How are they weighing in at 180 pounds at the weigh-in to make their weight, and at the fight they're like 210, 220? It's water. I don't recommend you do that. It's really dangerous to dehydrate yourself to that point, but that's what you're doing on a low carb diet. You may not even be dehydrating yourself, but you are certainly losing water weight. So that's the first problem there. The second problem with diets that are elimination diets, much like eliminating a carb, or even if you're a vegan, a vegetarian, eliminating meat, or the whatever a Tarian, a Teskian, a Terra blah, blah, blah diet, is eliminating a food does not make you lose weight by just eliminating it. You must be in a caloric deficit. That's why initially on a flexible diet, initially, you don't have to do it forever. You have to count calories. You have to know how much you are eating. Once you know what you're eating, then you can decide what you want to do. Health foods are not always the best diet foods. You could find that you really love nuts and they're really healthy. I think immediately of macadamia nuts. The problem is I have big hands. And if I have 2 handfuls a day of macadamia nuts, even throughout the course of the day, if I kind of snack on them, that's easily like 1,000 calories. And that's the difference right there between gaining and losing 2 pounds a week. I mean, it's as simple as you're snacking on a health food because you heard someone tell you it's healthy, but you have no idea how many calories you're consuming. And there's a really easy way to fix this. Just pay attention to it for a little while. Have an understanding of what a tablespoon of peanut butter looks like. I promise you, if you think you're putting 2 tablespoons of peanut butter on your peanut butter and jelly, weigh it out. Don't look at it exclusively. Weigh it out and then put it on your sandwich. And you may be like, wait a minute, like that's all the peanut butter I get for those calories? Exactly. My most recent cut is like a fat loss phase if you're maybe not familiar with that terminology. My most recent fat loss phase, I lost like 17, 18 pounds of fat. One of the reasons I was extremely successful this time around was because I really understood my triggers. I really understood what was going to leave me feeling satiated and not starving. And I was able to lose almost 20 pounds over the course of, I don't know how many months, probably like 4 or 5 months, by not even realizing I was dieting because I was eating foods that were more satiating, avoiding foods that were more calorically dense that weren't as satiating. For example, rather than having 2.5 tablespoons of peanut butter, which is like this much, and would not leave someone my size feeling very full, I don't think it would leave anyone feeling very full. I might have a bag of like Smart Pop out of the microwave. And that, with the carbohydrates, the evil carbs, are going to leave you feeling full a lot longer. I have a 90-10 rule, which is really fun. I like the way it sounds, but it's not actually 90%, 10%. It's basically the majority of the time I'm eating healthy, whole foods that are really good for you and really nutrient rich, and they are responsible for vitality and they're good things. And the other 10% of the time, I am eating things that make my life easier, make me feel better with the things I'm eating, and make my day easier. So I have Smart Pop. I drink diet soda. Oh my God. Like everyone's turning off the podcast right now. They're like, I can't listen to this guy. I can't. He's having Diet Coke. Marcy, he's drinking Diet Coke. He's drinking Diet Coke. We cannot trust him. But you can trust that, I don't believe Diet Coke is the devil. And the reason is not because I'm so smart. All the studies that I've seen and the people I trust who talk about this, and there are a lot of people I watch. I'm not a doctor or scientist. But it seems, unless you are consuming 20, 30, 40 cans of artificial sweetener a day in those cans of diet soda, you're probably okay. Think about this too. Um, let's say that you weren't okay with that artificial sweetener. Are you better off having that much just sugar in the can with the regular soda? I would guess that's probably worse. I don't know. I think that's a crummy experiment due to someone because you probably give them diabetes real quickly. The next thing I want to talk about is when you're doing these things, how do you use the scale successfully? You do not weigh yourself once a week on Friday morning because that's your day, and then compare it to your next weigh in Friday morning. That's a mistake because you are going to see numbers that aren't accurate because your weight fluctuates every week because of your body water. Carbohydrates make you retain water, not always in a bad way. Don't get scared. You have glycogen in your muscle, which makes your muscles look better, which you want. Even if you're thinking, I don't want to look really muscular, I want to look toned, and I just want a huge booty, and I want it to be muscular. Well, you want glycogen in the booty. And then there's also the sheer volume of food that's going to adjust the scale for you. Something I always notice because I do weigh myself daily, and what you want to do is average the weights. That's your weekly weight when you average the weights. I notice I will order a salad that is a very healthy salad. I'll have some grilled chicken or whatever on it. Nothing like uh, crazy food. I even will use a dressing that I enjoy that the restaurant won't send because I don't know what the heck's in that. And I'll notice the next day my weight will go up like 3 or 4 pounds. It's not calories, it's that the volume of the salad, all of that volume is still in your body. And that will make the scale jump up. So if you're eating more foods that are satiating, the scale may go up, but if you're in a caloric deficit, you're losing fat, you're gonna look better, which is why you want to not rely solely on the scale. You might not even initially want to use the scale. You want to look at yourself in the mirror, see how your clothes fit, and you can even do measurements, which is fine. If you want to measure, your waist or whatever else you want to measure, that's fine. You can use that from week to week. And I would say in combination with the scale, if you see two or three of those things are going in the right direction, but your weight is like, oh, my weight really hasn't moved. Stay the course. You got this. You're doing good. This is extremely noticeable when you are new to weight training or you haven't weight trained in a while. Because when you weight train, your muscles will pull glycogen into them. It will make you heavier and you will look better. So if you're new to weight training, not only is it easier to actually build muscle and lose fat at the same time, which we'll talk about in another episode, but you may be new to this whole thing where, okay, now you're eating away, you're in a deficit, and you're weight training maybe for the first time, or maybe you haven't done it consistently for a while, and the scale's staying the same. And that's okay because you're realizing, but my pants fit better, and I look better, and I feel better. You're doing the right thing. The scale progress is never linear. It is never linear, especially in in weight loss or muscle gain or whatever. This is not linear. This is something that's kind of a little bit more of a marathon because you want to keep the weight off. The other thing in fat loss that I want to mention, and one of the reasons that it's been as successful for me this time around, opposed to other times around, is this is very much, especially flex dieting, getting to know yourself and knowing your triggers, know what's going to leave you feeling satiated and things like that. A huge thing for me has been the Ninja Creami. I know friends and family are probably tired of me talking about this thing. Ninja does not sponsor this. This is something I use every single day. Ninja Creami is basically a way to make healthier ice cream. I have this every single night. It's delicious. It allows me kind of to fall within my calorie goals. I'm going to leave you a link to the one that I got. I recommend if you love ice cream, you may want to look into getting this thing. It's really, really, really great. We'll have that in the show notes. Ninja Creami as well. So now I'm going to give you step by step what I recommend you do if you want to lose fat now, today. And this is where you start. Number one, you need to know what you are eating. This is going to require a little bit of work. It will be worth it. Start by looking at what you're eating in a day and weighing it, writing it down, however you have to do it. So if you're going to have some chicken, weigh the chicken. I had this much chicken. If you're going to have a bowl of pasta, if you're going to have this, everything you're consuming, let's understand what you are consuming. This is going to do two things for you. First off, this is going to give you an idea of how much food you're eating in a day. This is also going to give you an idea of what portion size looks like. You're going to understand what 2 tablespoons of peanut butter looks like if you eat peanut butter. You're going to understand what 6 ounces of meat looks like if you, say, have a steak or something like that. That's really important. You don't have to do this forever unless you want to, but it's important to start there. Next thing you're going to do is you can use an online macronutrient calculator, and you use one of these calculators to figure out what your resting metabolic rate, your total daily energy expenditure is, your NEAT, your non exercise activity thermogenesis. This is going to give you, it's like a little survey online. I'll link one of those too, where this is free, where you're going to be able to see, okay, I'm this tall, I'm this age, I'm this sex. I'm kind of active. I'm not that active. I work out 2 times a week. I don't work out, whatever. It's going to let you know what your maintenance probably looks like. Meaning, how many calories does it take for you to just maintain? You're not gaining weight, you're not losing weight. Let's say, for the sake of example, that's 2,000 calories, and you decide you want to lose 1 pound a week, which is 3,500 calories, is a pound. You want to be in a 500 calorie a day deficit. So, step three is basically knowing what your deficit looks like. So, first, you've figured out what you're eating. Secondly, you now know what maintenance should look like. And third, you know what a deficit should look like. You could be in a less extreme deficit and be in a 250 calorie a day deficit, which would you only be losing half a pound a week. Don't say only though, that adds up a lot, especially you notice big differences. The next thing you really want to do is you want to make sure your diet is revolving around foods that you like and foods that you enjoy. You want to make sure that if you love popcorn and ice cream and things like that, like I do, you do not go become a carnivore where now you cannot have popcorn and ice cream because it's carbohydrates and dairy. I don't recommend doing that. The other thing we want to think about just a little bit here is what are the health implications of having some popcorn that is processed, right? Versus the health implications of being obese and the mortality rate of that. You may find that it's more dangerous to be overweight than it is to have some diet soda or some Smart Pop, which will help you stick to your diet. Another reason I recommend flex dieting, it works for me. Number four, we're going to monitor progress the way we talked about. We're not just going to use the scale, but if we are using the scale, we're going to weigh ourselves daily or every other day. We're going to average it. We're not going to freak out if our weight shoots up a few pounds, and we're not going to feel like, oh my God, how did I lose 3 pounds in a day? You didn't. You didn't burn an extra 10,500 calories in a day unless you ran like a triathlon and didn't eat anything. So that didn't happen. That is normal water weight fluctuation. And after that, the last step is you're just going to adjust your deficit based on your results and your goal. And I also recommend don't put yourself in a position where you are in a deficit forever. So even if your goal is to lose 100 pounds, lose X amount and keep checking in with yourself. And you may start to experience what is called diet fatigue, which is just kind of like you're irritable, you're starving all the time. You don't want to be in that place for a real long time. If you're not feeling that, you can keep going. But that could also mean you need to stop and go into maintenance. It also can mean you need a reverse diet, which we're also going to dig into in the future, I promise you. So listen to your body, see where you're at. Don't try to lose the 100 pounds all at once. In my opinion, give yourself a break. I do not recommend dieting for being in a deficit for too long because you're eventually going to hit some diet fatigue and your metabolism is going to slow as you're eating less. As you eat more, your metabolism is going to speed up. We're going to talk about that in reverse dieting and even maintenance mode, which is going to be really cool. So, this is the fat loss. This is the idea. You adjust from here. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know where you're at in your fat loss journey. How much work do you have to do? Where are you headed? Is there a particular problem in your fat loss journey you want me to dig into here? That's what I'm here for. This show is for you. So, please let me know. All right. Next up, culture and the arts, which again is a really big part of Caffeinated too, because this is a show about your overall wellness and your overall health. not just what you see in the mirror. So part of that is enjoyment. It's savoring life. It's enrichment. So that's why the culture and the arts part is so important. And I hope you stick around for this stuff. You might find you have a new interest here that you didn't realize, really intrigued you. So this could be a cool thing, I hope, for you. I want to start off by a little bit of a nod to Mr. Lou Gossett Jr. Lou Gossett Jr. had passed away March 29th of this year. He was an Academy Award winning actor. He was known for An Officer and a Gentleman. He had won an Oscar for that. He was known for the TV series Roots. There was also a series, Josephine Baker Story, that he was part of. He won a Golden Globe in that too. He was a really, really talented guy. I don't want to talk too much about myself in this portion, but I'm an actor, and I recently have had the privilege within the last year of working on a film with Lou Gossett Jr. Lou Gossett Jr. was a part of it, as well as like Lance Henriksen. I did not have the opportunity to work with Mr. Gossett Jr. He was filming in Georgia. I was filming in New York. I did have the opportunity to work with Lance, which was wonderful. But I wanted to state that everyone on this film that I had spoken to about Mr. Gossett Jr. had said he was a gentleman, he was a true professional. And when I asked him, what was he like to work with? It was always resounding. He came to work, he was a professional. So I just want to say, Mr. Gossett Jr., your work and you yourself, sir, will be missed. Thank you. Thank you for contributing to film the way you have. Moving on, Apples Never Fall. This is a streaming series on Peacock. It's starring Annette Bening and Allison Brie, who I loved from Glow, the gorgeous ladies of wrestling. I thought she was really, really good and funny. My wife liked her a lot in Mad Men, which I haven't gotten to watch all of. Should I watch that? Let me know. But most adoringly, Sam Neill is a part of that show. This show, it strings you along. It keeps you guessing. It's a whodunit. And Annette Bening's very good. Allison Brie's very good. Sam Neill's really good. It's funny because in this show in particular, I'm usually, I think because I read a lot of scripts as an actor, able to say, okay, this happened here and this is going to happen there. And they're eventually going to pull down the attic and the body's going to fall out. And it frustrates my wife because I usually kind of know what's going on in the script. I've read a lot of scripts. And this show has kept me guessing. It has proved me wrong over and over, which is kind of fun because I like not knowing what's going to happen. So back to Sam Neill. Jurassic Park was an enormous part of my life, as it may have been yours if you're about my age in your 30s. I mean, I'm in my early 20s, but if you're in your 30s, you probably know that. Jurassic Park, I had all the toys, all the birthday parties, all the model kits. I was obsessed with dinosaurs. I still am. My son today, whenever he plays with a dinosaur or he says dino, dino, my heart warms up because it's a beautiful thing. And Sam Neill was Dr. Alan Grant in the show. And ooh, did I want to be that guy? That's the first thing I ever wanted to be, like job wise, like get a real job. The real job I wanted to get was go be a paleontologist because I was convinced you would have dinosaur adventures, which is probably half true. You could go dig up bones, and that is a dinosaur adventure. But in my mind, at that age, I thought maybe like velociraptors would be chasing me, which would seem really really fun there. So that has such a special place in my heart. And not only is he Sam Neill, and he's friggin' awesome, and he's really good in this show, but he totally brings. Anytime I see him, there's nostalgia seeing him. It's kind of like seeing Michael Keaton and seeing Batman. I will always see Batman when I see Michael Keaton or Beetlejuice. So it's a really, really cool show. It's a whodunit. I thought that I knew what was happening in it, and I finished the series at the time of recording this. I would love for you to check the show out and let me know, did you think it was going to end the way it ended, and were you satisfied with the ending? The reason is it threw me for a loop, and I was absolutely not thinking they were going to end it how they did or where they did. That's my take. I think it's a lot of fun, whether you're looking for something to watch by yourself, with your significant other, with your neighbor, whatever. It's a good show. It's on Peacock. It's worth watching. And again, I'd like to hear what you think of it. Next up, Pearl Jam has a new album out called Dark Matter. Pearl Jam doesn't get much better than Pearl Jam for me. I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm involved in the arts in all those different ways. Pearl Jam has been inspiring to me for a really, really long time. I won't get too much into my history with the band, but I can tell you, younger Charlie really loved Pearl Jam, but into my 20s, I really, really, really loved Pearl Jam because I got more into the deep cuts, the B-sides, and I got to see them live. And if you have not gotten to see Pearl Jam live, I highly recommend go see Pearl Jam live. It's kind of like a religious experience. I would wager a guess that if you went to a Pearl Jam show as someone who really liked Pearl Jam, you would leave loving Pearl Jam. I had the privilege of seeing Pearl Jam at the Barclays Center. I had the privilege of going backstage and seeing Pearl Jam. I've had the privilege of seeing Jeff Ament backstage and wanting to bother him. And I was so close to just being like, hey, I'm a fangirl and I didn't do it, but I wanted to do it. It was like that might have been the moment I proved to myself I had self-control because I was like, I don't think I really get starstruck by celebrities, but I don't even consider him a celebrity as much as I do as like an artist whose music has profoundly influenced and benefited my life. Last album Pearl Jam put out was called Gigaton. Gigaton was a good album that I enjoyed. I don't know that I connected to it as much as other Pearl Jam albums. I really liked Dance of the Clairvoyants. There were some other tracks that I really dug. This album, right off the bat, hits you differently. The album had only been released about a few days before this is being recorded. I've listened to the album in full about 2 or 3 times. And like anything, like a fine wine, it grows on you. You like some things more than you liked others initially. And this album is no different, I am sure. I'm sure as time goes on, I'll feel differently. But as I was kind of getting this together, I remember listening to the album, and my 2-year-old son was like headbanging along to it, which I didn't teach him, but he saw me doing that. So I'm sure I did teach him that. So the new album, first of all, it's a great album. The first track is called Scared of Fear, which it sounds like a Pearl Jam song. It's a good song. If you asked me, what would you expect this album to kind of sound like? I would kind of say this is kind of what I expect Pearl Jam to sound like. There's some lyrics in it. I think you're hurting yourself just to hurt me, which resonated. I really enjoyed, and it's a great way to start the album. The next track on it, Wreckage, is a really beautiful song as well. It's almost in the spirit of, I would say, Sirens, which is a song of Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt was a super exciting time in my life. I was a little younger. I wasn't married, didn't have responsibilities the same way I do now. The fourth track, Dark Matter, is where the album really starts happening for me. It's like, okay, this is where I'm feeling something different. It's heavier, which is good to hear from them because I think with a lot of bands, as they get older, of course they get wiser. But sometimes, that wisdom translates to a gentler feel. And I think that's a natural thing for all artists, including myself. If you start off as an angry musician or artist or whatever you are at 20 years old, if at 60 you're still angry, I don't know that the art has necessarily served you. Doesn't mean you can't express anger. We all get angry. But I think part of art is it's a therapy. The next song is called Upper Hand, and this is where I can say I really start loving the album. This song is emotional and it's refreshing, and it's a track again I kept coming back to. I feel so many Pink Floyd vibes in this song. I have my Shine On You Crazy Diamond tattoo on my chest right here. And the ending of the song, as much as the song feels like a little ode to Shine On to me, kind of reminds us that it's not. Mike McCready really shreds the heck out of this song. It's a great, great solo. It's a great, great way to end the song. The next track is called Waiting for Stevie, that I read Eddie Vedder had wrote this around waiting for Stevie Wonder to guest appear on his 2022, I think, album Earthling. And while waiting for Stevie, this was written. It's a really, really strong song. I love the repeating lyric, you can be loved by everyone, which is just nice to hear today. I feel like we could use more love and more love by everyone. I don't I don't see as much of that today as I'd like to. And the ending of the song ends with an even better Mike McCready solo, and he is wailing away. And Eddie's singing over it, you can be loved, you can be loved. And it's one of those moments that it made me emotional, and it also did something that's so important to me in any art that I love and I resonate with. It made me want to write. And as soon as something makes me want to go to the guitar or go to the canvas or even want to act, I know it's something special. And this song did that. And this solo also, it makes me wonder, as I do often wonder, because I'm not there when they record this, could he have written this out? Or was he just like, guys, I want you to hit record and just like Just let me do what I think I'm gonna do here. And you know, and he just goes off, and then you get this brilliant, raw, awesome take. The solo on Waiting for Stevie alone is worth listening to this album. It's great. It also ends with a verse, I would say very reminiscent to David Bowie's Heroes, the song Heroes, not the album, the song. And for me, you're not getting much better than Pink Floyd and David Bowie on an album, so it's another reason you may want to listen. The next song is called Running. This is Pearl Jam doing what Pearl Jam, I think, kind of does best. And I believe it's a really great Pearl Jam album, too. Give it a listen. And if you are going to give it a listen, you may want to listen to it on vinyl, where everything sounds better. So you go onto your Amazon and you click the buy button. And instead of the MP3 or the CD or even the streaming on whatever you stream on, you click the vinyl. And that would be a good choice if you did that. Okay, next up. In the world of animation, X-Men 97. X-Men 97 is a streaming series on Disney Plus. They released the first 2 episodes, and now every week we get a new episode. The series is now, I want to say, 7 episodes in right now at the time of this recording. It's not just a cartoon, it doesn't even come close to it. This show has been jaw-dropping. It's kind of taking the world by storm, pun intended. And you hear more and more people talking about this show for a number of reasons. First, I want to give you some background on why it's called X-Men 97 and who the X-Men are. The X-Men are a group of mutants. They're people with extraordinary abilities who are really hated and feared for being different. Again, themes of today kind of come up. They're led by a guy, Professor Charles Xavier, who's fighting for the coexistence between humans and mutants. He would like them to be able to live peacefully together. His students, the X-Men, Professor X, really become like his soldiers fighting for this coexistence. The reason they're fighting is not just the humans that hate them, but you have Magneto, who is kind of like his counterpart. He's the Malcolm X to his Martin Luther King Jr. That's where I guess that's like 60, 70 years of comic book history right now. That's kind of the basis of where this whole thing started. So they're this amazing group of colorful, vibrant, interesting characters with interesting stories that if you're a fan already, I know why you're a fan. If you're not, you might really enjoy knowing about these guys and reading them and seeing them and all that stuff. The reason it's called X-Men 97 is the original animated series aired between 1992 and 1997. This animated series was called like the best adaptation from comic book to cartoon, medium, animation, medium, whatever. Only maybe second to Batman, the animated series, which was so incredible in its own right, that film noir Batman thing, which I absolutely love. So at the end of X-Men, the original airing in 1997, their contract is up, but the last episode of the 5th season in 1997 leaves you on this crazy cliffhanger. Professor Xavier goes into space. He needs to go into space and abandon the X-Men so he doesn't die. And that really sucks because you'd like to see what happens and you don't get to. It's just done. And I guess it was done for like almost 30 years or something like that. So this series is called X-Men 97 because this new one, Disney Plus, picks up right where that one left off in 1992. Again, this show deals with even heavier, riskier things than the first one did. It feels like more is at stake. As actors, we're always talking about stakes. This feels like more is at stake. It's so cool to see this again in my slightly older years because it's still really powerful, even in the animated form. And I can watch this with my kids now, especially my son who loves the show, because it's not so heavy where it's like there's cursing and nudity or whatever you maybe do or don't want your kid to see. But there's themes enough that they can enjoy the animation, which is great. And you can enjoy the story too, which is deeper than you might think. Episode 5, if you're watching and you know what happens in episode 5, it left me like almost in tears. And I'm like, this is an animated thing hitting me like this. So that's why I wanted to talk about this on the channel, because once that happened, I said, more people should be watching this thing. The show, the original animated series, was based very much on Jim Lee's artwork, Chris Claremont's writing. This show also kind of goes from there. It also, one of my other favorite artists other than Jim Lee, Andy Kubert, also was a big part of this. I own both of their art, and they're phenomenal artists that have shaped me as an artist a whole lot too. This show takes off where the last one left off, and the story is just, again, more and more intense. And now you start wondering, especially after episode 5, like, wow, they're gonna go here? Like, what else are they gonna do? They're taking some risks here while still being true to the comic book that inspired it. And that's a big problem today, I think. A lot of these comic book stories, they don't begin with what made you love the characters in the first place. And you can take liberties as long as the essence and what made you love them is there in the first place. And this show has that. The animation is great, but it's not quite what the animation was in style of the original series. And by that, I mean, I think that when you think of comic books, you see overly masculine men, you see overly feminized females, and they're unrealistic standards, no doubt. Okay, unless you're taking a billion whatever steroids to look like, Colossus, or you're a woman who's gotten maybe this implant, that implant, and all this other stuff. For the 99.99% of people, I understand they're highly, maybe unattainable standards. I do believe, though, when we are looking in the arts, be it film or art or comic books, we're okay with suspending disbelief. The thing where it gets kind of into a gray area here is this is kind of also designed for kids. So do we want to show that to kids at that extreme? So I understand why they toned it down a little bit in terms of the body images, specifically the females. I think they may have gone a little too far. I think it's okay for these things to be exaggerated because we all know kids are going to see the Avengers. And when they see Mark Ruffalo turn into the Incredible Hulk, they're not pulling back. So I think it's okay, and also even looking at Chris Hemsworth, it doesn't have to be like a big green guy. You look at Chris Hemsworth in those movies and you're like, is that supposed to be attainable? We can talk about that on another episode. But anyway, this show is a fantastic show. Two big things it also does. I'm going to talk about two characters. I've always wanted to be Gambit my whole life. And if I couldn't be Gambit, I want to be in a film, if you're listening. Something this show does really, really right is this is an X-Men show. It's not just a Wolverine show. And Wolverine is the most popular X-Men. If you have watched, like anything involving X-Men, you probably see it can very quickly become a Wolverine movie, not an X-Men movie. So it does a really good job making it an X-Men show. And then it also gives Cyclops, the leader of the X-Men, I think a justice and a respect that he deserves that he hasn't gotten. So if you ever watched Married with Children, Cyclops kind of reminded me of like Steve Darcy. I think that's the name, Marcy's husband, who was just like this abused guy who was just always like kind of pathetic. And I think they did that with Cyclops for a while. And it seems like they've finally done a pretty good job redeeming him. So I certainly hope that that's the case there. Again, really, really good show. I think this is the kind of thing that's so cool about it too, is if you have kids and you're interested in this kind of stuff, you can watch it with them without really fearing too much, I think. And it's really great. The content's really great. It's really enjoyable. So you might want to check that out too. X-Men 97 streaming on Disney Plus. I would love to know what you think about it. I'm going to maybe do a little review after the season finale, quick, just to, how I feel the season ended. And it's really good stuff, guys. You might want to check that one out too. All right, last thing we're doing today, I'm bringing it back to health and wellness. I'm giving you my recipe for my high protein Reese's Mudpie. This is delicious. This will hopefully help you kick those fitness goals in the ass. All right. I'm going to try and get you guys this recipe too on the Instagram so you can see a video of me making it too, make it even easier. But if you're listening, you're going to want to start with 200 grams of non-fat Greek yogurt. We use Chobani, which is awesome, in a bowl. 1 scoop of chocolate protein powder. Last time we made this, we used Primal Fuel by Primal Kitchen. Great ingredients. We use like 2 scoops of that because they're small scoops. That's fine. Next thing you're going to add is 2 scoops of cocoa flavanols. This is for the health benefit, not just the taste. This is great for your blood pressure, your cardiovascular system, and your insulin resistance. Next, you're going to add 1 tablespoon of natural peanut butter, 1 egg, 2 truvias. That's my artificial sweetener of choice. You can choose yours if you like something else. 2 tablespoons of a sugar-free maple syrup. We're using one called Wholesome Yum. You're gonna mix that all up in the bowl. You're gonna take that, you're gonna pop that in the microwave for about 2 to 2.5 minutes. You're gonna see it rise. It's gonna be really cool. Melt some natural peanut butter, get that on top, and you even top it with a couple of Reese's Pieces. You can have 5 or 10 of them and it'll fit into the caloric idea of this. You're gonna get like 50 grams of protein for about 500 calories. And it's gonna taste like something you ate at Friendly's, which would not be only 500 calories. It might be like 1,500 or 2,000. So highly recommend that you try this recipe of mine. I love it. I use it. I eat it. And let me know in the comments if you tried it, if you liked it, and if you want to hear more recipes. All right, that's our show for today. Please, if you enjoyed this and you like this and you're creative and you're interested in wellness and you want a one-stop where we can do these deep dives, please like, subscribe, comment, leave a review, whatever you can do. There's all kinds of buttons. Press the ones that you know better than I do. But the most important things I want to hear from you. I want to hear what is going to offer you the most value. What are your struggles? Where can I lend a hand the most by doing this research? And either message me, leave it in a comment, email me at charliewilliamparks@gmail.com. Let me know what I can do best to serve you. And at the very least, if you're subscribed, you will know when episode 2 comes out, which we're going to get you episodes weekly. I want to know exactly how to make those episodes the way you want to hear them. It's so important to me that this is a positive thing that makes you feel good. Please know I appreciate you. You are appreciated. Thank you so much. And I really, really hope that I see you next time. Thanks, guys.